Welcome back to Mysteries of the Church. We know that the Rosary is more than just a set of beads and a prayer. It is a way to meditate on the mysteries of Christ, remembering the events that took place during his lifetime and what they mean to us. But what are its origins, and how did the present Rosary come to be? Traditionally, the Rosary is attributed to Saint Dominic and the Virgin Mary.
Saint Dominic, the founder of the Dominican order, was a Spaniard by birth and was renowned as a great preacher, zealous and passionate in preaching about the life, death, and resurrection of the Lord, and through that preaching to bring conversion.
Praying for guidance, what was a way he could most clearly reach people? Which is a way he can most clearly and simply reach the common man, the common woman, the common child, who doesn't have the opportunity to sit in a theological school. People who don't have the time to learn academics, people who had to work the land, people who had to work as artisans. Well, here's your answer, Dominic. And you have in the statues or in the paintings Mary handing Dominic the Rosary. And as a result, the Rosary was to be, that prayer was to be very powerful, you know, in not only teaching, but helping people to live Christian lives, following a moral life, following a life that that was an example of being a disciple of Christ.
As a theologian, during the turn of the 12th and 13th centuries, Saint Dominic dedicated his life to eradicating church heresies throughout Europe.
In all times of great turmoil and rebirth, there is always the tendency for people to forget the true presence of God. They can become so wrapped up in their own achievements, in their own discoveries, that they can fall into the great sin that Adam fell into. That in the end, there can only be one God. And if I forget the real God, I will put someone else in God's place, oftentimes myself.
This is the Middle Ages we're talking about. This is a time where you had many questions. You had heresies, people who were believing other things.
So it doesn't really surprise me at all that this devotion arose, because in this great time of awakening and turmoil and rebirth, that all people had to be reminded of who's really in charge.
One particular group of heretics, called the Albigensians, seemed especially resistant, even violent towards his teachings. It was during this crisis that Mary purportedly appeared before Saint Dominic. Answering his prayers for guidance, Mary gave the Rosary to Saint Dominic, promising that it would help him rid the world of heresy and sin. As the story goes, Saint Dominic was able to successfully convert the Albigensians by preaching the Rosary.
Dominic had been very influential in preaching and teaching in order to counteract heresies and errors of his time. So as a result, it was very important that not only could he preach, but he had to tell the story. He had to tell people what was true and what was not true in the Middle Ages. This prayer form gave the context that people needed to know.
So where does the term Rosary come from? Well, it's a common custom to adorn the statue of Mary with roses, signifying the joy of being the Blessed Mother of Jesus. It is believed that this is where we get the term Rosary, which is said to have Latin roots, meaning crown of roses. When we come back, we will take a closer look at the accuracy of Saint Dominic's association with the Rosary.